Russia doesn't target civilians. The strike on the apartment building in Dnipro is the work of Ukrainian air defense. No Bradley or Abrams. The Pentagon is in no hurry to hand over new toys to Ukraine. Orthodox Church of Ukraine plans to canonize the US president. Find out about these and other masterpieces of Kremlin propaganda in today's episode. Detector Media did all the dirty fact-checking work for you. We have separated real facts from those of a parallel universe. My name is Vadym Miskyi. In the next 10 minutes, I will tell you about the most impressive examples of Kremlin propaganda, as well as about some international media that use unverified sources of information. Here we go. Russia doesn't launch missiles at civilians. The mid-January strike on the residential building in Dnipro was the work of Ukrainian air defense. Russian propagandists have spread a number of messages trying to deny Russia's crime and blame the Ukrainian military for the tragedy. To recap, a Russian missile strike on the residential building in Dnipro killed more than 50 people. The building was hit by a Russian ballistic missile.
Can Russian terror be stopped? Yes. Is it possible to do it somehow differently than on the battlefield in Ukraine? Unfortunately, no. This can and must be done on our land, in our sky, in our sea. What is needed for this? Those weapons that are in the warehouses of our partners and that our troops are so waiting for. No amount of persuasion or just passing the time will stop the terrorists who are methodically killing our people with missiles, drones bought in Iran, their own artillery, tanks and mortars. The whole world knows what can stop and how it's possible to stop those who sow death.
We know that Russia remains bent on aggression and conquest. And Russian forces have increased their horrific attacks, killing many innocent Ukrainians. We saw the cruelty of Russia's war of choice again just a few days ago in the city of Dnipro. A Russian missile strike ripped into an apartment building, killing at least 46 civilians, including children. The Kremlin's forces continue to bombard Ukraine's cities and citizens.
According to the Ukrainian Air Force spokesman, the missile was launched at Dnipro city from a long-range bomber in the Russian Kursk region and the Sea of Azov. A total of 5 such missiles were launched. They are designed to destroy aircraft carrier groups at sea. Missiles of this type are not used for urban operations. Ukrainian Center for Countering Disinformation noted that Russian propaganda generates a lot of fakes about the situation in Dnipro. In particular, the following. The attack on the building is supposedly a provocation by the Ukrainian special services to create a pretty picture as a way to increase military aid from Western partners. The bloody Russian terrorist attack angered the West.
Russia continues to show its inhuman face and applies its brutal missile terror indiscriminately. Such actions constitute war crimes and must stop immediately. As the High Representative Borrell stated yesterday, there will be no impunity. The European Union strongly condemns Russia's continued heinous strikes on civilian targets in Ukraine, including energy infrastructure, and we also strongly condemn Russia increasingly targeting Ukrainian citizens in their homes by attacking residential buildings. Russia's barbaric actions only strengthen our resolve to ensure accountability and our support for Ukraine and its people.
The Russian political and military leaders will be brought to justice in an international court for their crimes against Ukrainians. The European Parliament has adopted a resolution to create a special tribunal. Moreover, the EU will increase its assistance to Ukraine.
These last days saw again a series of indiscriminate strikes by Russia against people in Ukraine. We saw how residential buildings were targeted, women, children massacred. The images of Dnipro will haunt forever all those who saw them, all those who were forced to live through them. The bravery and resilience of the Ukrainian people should be an example to all. They have shown the world that might does not equal right, that terror will not break Ukrainian spirits. We will continue, Europe will continue to support Ukraine. politically, humanitarianly, militarily and financially. The €18 billion financial package that this House voted for will begin to be dispersed this week.
And here is the reaction of propagandists to the Russian war crime in Dnipro.
Отметили прекрасным фейерверком, таким вот, как положено. Приятно, не буду скрывать, приятно, но гораздо приятнее было бы увидеть разнесенный в хлам какой-нибудь Днепровский мост. Даже если в этот дом попала наша ракета, вот лично для меня это не меняет вообще ничего.
Earlier, Russia denied its role in deaths caused by missile attacks on Ukrainian cities, in particular during the attack on the train station in Kramatorsk. That strike killed 50 people. The Pentagon is in no hurry to provide Ukraine with new weapons. Pro-Russian Telegram channels are spreading this manipulative message. And this is the statement of the American president.
And today I'm announcing that the United States will be sending 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, the equivalent of 1 Ukrainian battalion. Secretary Austin has recommended this step because it will enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives. The Abrams tanks are the most capable tanks in the world. They're also extremely complex to operate and maintain. So we're also giving Ukraine the parts and equipment necessary to effectively sustain these tanks on the battlefield.
Overall, the US announced a new aid package for Ukraine. Kyiv will receive hundreds of armored vehicles, air defense systems, and other weapons worth $2.5 billion. In particular, Washington will provide Kyiv with 59 Bradley armored personnel carriers and 90 Stryker armored vehicles. In addition, the new package will include ammunition for the NASAMS anti-aircraft missile system and the Avenger air defense system.
That the United States has greatly increased its security assistance to Ukraine. Last month, the United States announced that we will provide a Patriot air defense battery and associated munitions. We also included Bradley infantry fighting vehicles and other armored vehicles in that major package of security assistance. And today, I'm pleased to announce another major new round of U.S. security assistance that helps to meet Ukraine's most urgent battlefield needs. This new security assistance package is worth up to $2.5 billion, and it's one of the largest yet. It brings total U.S. security assistance to Ukraine to more than $26.7 billion since Russia's unprovoked invasion last February.
Are Bradley armored fighting vehicles on their way from the US?
Yeah, we're waiting for them.
Why do you need them?
It's a main vehicle for any infantry unit. That's why we need it.
And up until now, you haven't had them?
Not enough, because a huge count of these, infantry fighting vehicles, which we have in our army, was destroyed from period of 2014 till now.
But now you've been promised that they are coming.
Yeah, we're waiting for them.
How do you see the next 6 months playing out in this war?
It will be the most warm months. In military aspect.
In a military sense. When will you win this war?
We will win in this year.
This year, 2023?
2023.
Victory is in 2023?
Victory in 2023, it's victory of Ukraine. It will be victory of Ukraine.
The head of the office of the President of Ukraine emphasized the importance of US leadership in bringing together the international coalition against the aggressor country.
The people not leave, the people believe, the people sure that Ukraine is win, and it's mean that for us it's very important that you as our first and biggest strategic partners know exactly the situation in all of each areas, understand, and we will be very transparent and very open the full information, because now we feel that we are together in these fightings, you with us, and once again we are very appreciated, and it's a very important, and once again I'm sure that it will be the victory, our joint victory.
The United States has already begun training Ukrainian soldiers to operate the Patriot system.
Sure. So as of today, this is the only tranche, but of course we'll continue to keep that dialogue open. And certainly Fort Sill has the capability and the capacity to train many different nations, obviously, on Patriot. So that's something that we'll continue to take into account. But as of right now, this is the group that's coming through to train on the U.S. Patriot that we're providing.
So if I could follow up, then how is that going to work when there are potentially 2 Patriots in Ukraine, but only 100 guys that
So you're talking about a German-provided Patriot. And so really the Germans, that's a question for them in terms of what their game plan is in terms of training on that system. Again, we will stay open in terms of talking with the Germans and others on how we can best provide support and training to the Ukrainians.
Russian propaganda has been consistently spreading the message that the West doesn't want to provide weapons to Ukraine. The reality is that the United States has been providing Ukraine with weapons since the very beginning of the full-scale invasion. In the event that Ukraine and Russia resume negotiations, the occupied territories should remain part of Russia. Kremlin propagandists are spreading this manipulation. Russian media also reported that the negotiation process should be held without Western participation. Ukraine left the negotiations last spring. The main condition for resuming the talks is the return of the Ukrainian territories according to the 1991 borders. Now the Ukrainian armed forces are preparing a major counteroffensive across the country this spring, from Crimea to the Donbass. This was reported by the head of Ukrainian intelligence.
Inside Russia, deep inside Russia?
Deeper and deeper.
And in Crimea?
Crimea is a part of Ukraine. It's our territory. We can use any weapon on our territory.
And the West will help Ukraine return its territories.
Because Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine has fundamentally changed our security. In recent days, we have seen fierce fighting around Bakhmut and Soledar in eastern Ukraine. This shows once again the bravery of Ukrainian forces as they fight to defend their homeland. It also shows how vital it is that we step up our support, our military support to Ukraine. I therefore welcome the recent announcements by the United States, France and Germany that they will soon deliver infantry fighting vehicles and light tanks, and the unprecedented support by all NATO allies and EU member states. Our support makes a real difference on the ground. And at this key juncture of the war, we must do even more, even faster.
For almost 1 year now, Ukraine has stunned the world. On that fateful February morning, many predicted that Kyiv would fall in a matter of days. But this did not account for the morale and the physical courage of Ukrainian people. Dearest Olena, you and your people, you have resisted the Russian invasion and pushed back against the aggressor, against all odds. Not even Russia's relentless attacks on civilians, and you have described them, or the specter of a brutal winter have shaken your resolve. In this last year, your country has moved the world and has inspired Europe. And I can assure you that Europe will always stand with you. Many doubted whether that European support would be so unwavering. But today, Ukraine is a candidate country to access the European Union. European countries are providing more and more critical weapons to Ukraine.
This is not the first time Russia has tried to push Ukraine to negotiate. However, every time it speaks of potential talks, the Kremlin believes they are possible only under an absolutely unacceptable condition for Kyiv: if Ukraine recognizes that the occupied territories are part of Russia. The Orthodox Church of Ukraine is going to canonize the President of the United States. Kremlin propagandists are spreading this absolute fake. Ukrainians are supposedly going to recognize US President Joe Biden as a saint because he helps Ukraine in its fight against Russia. The creators of such messages attach a screenshot showing a supposed petition on the change.org website with the corresponding request to Epiphanius, who is the head of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine. However, this is not true. No such petition appears on the change.org website. Propagandists used Photoshop to fake it. I should know that Biden is not an Orthodox Christian, but the US president doubts that Vladimir Putin is a religious person either. One reason is the massive missile attacks against Ukraine during the Christmas holidays, and Putin's cynical request for a ceasefire.
I'm reluctant to respond to anything Putin says. I found it interesting. He was ready to bomb hospitals and nurseries and churches, and on the 25th and New Year's, and I mean, you know, I think he's trying to find some oxygen.
Also, according to Kremlin propagandists, there is a new religion growing in Ukraine, the so-called Bandera paganism, which is element of the wider esoteric Nazism. Here is another pseudo-religious fake by the Kremlin propaganda. Ukraine is destroying the largest Christian denomination. Pro-Russian Telegram channels claim this in the context of inspections and searches that are being carried out in the churches of the Moscow Patriarchate. The real reason for the investigation was a video taken at the Kyiv Pечерsk Lavra, which showed people praising Russia during a service. The Security Service of Ukraine opened a criminal investigation into the justification of Russia's armed aggression. During the searches, law enforcement officers found pro-Russian literature, leaflets, and other evidence. But there is also great news. For the first time in the history of independent Ukraine, the Kyiv Pечерsk Lavra hosted a nativity service performed by the head of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine. Previously, only representatives of the Moscow Patriarchate could hold services there. I find it symbolic that the abbot of the Lavra, the infamous representative of the Moscow Patriarchate, Metropolitan Paul, better known as Pasha the Mercedes for his love of luxury, is not in the church in this picture. He is standing behind a barrier. By the way, the Prosecutor General's office has opened a criminal case against him for inciting religious hatred. I believe that Ukraine will get rid of all Russian invaders, including those in Westminster. We will win with the support of the civilized world. Have a good day.